Hello, my fellow gaming tinkers. So, I didn't anticipate making this video until next week, but with the news that was delivered today on the Wargaming stream, I was like, well, let's bump things up. And for the record, what you're seeing here in the background with the EBR-75 is just for you to see. There's no tips or tricks. There's no expert tanking, but there's a reason why there's a wheeled vehicle before you and featured so heavily in this video. But first, Wargaming announced that they are going to be reverting the ATGM changes they made with the season update. They heard what we said, they acknowledged our discontent, and will be next week reverting the changes back until the next season. Well, okay, why would they do this? You're looking at one of the reasons. So, what I'm about to prophesize is actually not anything prophetic. What I'll be saying is a lot of stuff that has been said before and been hinted at being worked on. So, Wargaming can either do changes in two ways. All at once and risk breaking the game, 6.0. Or do it in stages, but without disclosing what the big plan is, the final conclusion is to why this change is now, months later, another small change is now, and then another change later. Like, we never get the full story. If things don't work out with the little change, they can go back and fix it without being like, well, crap, we've really got your hopes up, and then have to dash them all. So, the reason they started with ATGM changes was, originally BAM 1500 said, we wanted to slow down the pace of Cold War mode. This is something that has been talked about pretty much since like a year after Cold War mode was put in. Also, with this update and alongside the changes of the ATGMs was more updates to wheeled vehicles, which about like a week after, well, we're only 2 weeks in, there was talk. No, they said on one of the streams, like, yeah, this is looking good. We think wheeled vehicles are now in a good place. That's why I'm playing the EBR here, because I want to get a feel for wheeled vehicles, because wheeled vehicles are vehicles that a lot of people want in the game and be something that would set World of Tanks Modern Armor apart from PC and Blitz, because I think right now PC also has the French tank line like we do, or the French wheeled vehicles, but that's it. It's just because the next thing to help slow down the pacing would be terrain resistance. Something that was tested, hasn't been tested in a long time, but is something that would, especially in Era 2 and certainly Era 3, would bring about some significant slowing down the matches. But this is where I think, so if we slow down the pace of, if we increase terrain resistance and suddenly, especially in Era 2, certain tanks like the BZD-70 are now even slower, M103s are slower, that would give those of us with ATGMs a distinct advantage. Hence the dispersion. Hence the whole having to possibly stop and have better aim. But it got implemented in a way that where we have no idea what our dispersion is. And I certainly saw it with tanks that had dual ATGM launchers versus those with a single ATGM launcher, and there was a much more significant dispersion on the dual ATGMs, which I would stop, wait a second, make a minor adjustment with my turret, fire, and still have my ATGM either fly far to the right, far to the left, or directly into the ground. I don't think they were intending that. So we were playtesting. We were beta testing, essentially, as per Wargaming's kind of tactic here. So that is why they did the ATGM dispersion, to slow down the light tanks sort of, and give heavier tanks a better chance for when the resistance changes came in. But let's say light tanks, some light tanks might be slower, heavy tanks might be slower. Oh, what could we do for scouting, especially if you have certain light tanks acting now as tank destroyers, like I was saying before? Well, wouldn't wheeled vehicles suddenly, with less resistance, because they don't have tracks constantly touching them, and have a boost mode, suddenly be able to act as scouts? Well then, now things kind of make a little bit, again, speculating, but this is all stuff they've said in the past, and it seems like they're starting to get, they're heading in that direction for the next big version of the game. Finally bringing some sort of balance to Cold War mode, which some have been begging for, and others like, no, it's fine. But this is what I think was happening. And they didn't do it all. Now, the only way to, I guess reality-wise, is to confirm this is if we have more terrain resistance tests. Maybe do the test when we have the, ATM dispersion in there included, without giving away too much. Although I don't, like I said, it's not too big of a deal. In that way, we kind of get a sense of what they're doing. Why they don't just tell us this is what, well, what if we really don't like, what if we, the players, really, really don't like this? And it's like, alright, fine. Cold War mode can be the clown show that some criticize it for being. Well, after playing World Tanks Heat, which I'm going to recommend you play this mostly because they have slow tanks. I know when you see the clips, when you watch the streams, and if you've played it all, you're seeing all that intensity of all the action because all the tanks are being focused into one area, so there's going to be a continuous high-intensity combat. But look at the speeds these tanks are doing. In Heat, there is, I've done the comparison, I've shown it here, and I don't have the maybe I'll include in the description. Their Abrams, which is, I guess, supposed to be like an experimental version of the Abrams, only does 55 kilometers per hour. Pretty much the M1, right? Once you get it fully upgraded, you can do 70 kilometers per hour, and then you have the M1A2 and Abrams in the top of the line. It's, yeah, Era 3 would be might benefit from restraining the MBTs and allowing light tanks, maybe wheeled tanks, from actually being able to scout again, which you really can't do in Era 3 with a light tank, just because you're right. Ooh. The M1A2 Bradley can be outpaced by almost anything. It's so slow. Which, if MBTs played like that, I was like, oh, playing other, like, the M88 AGS would be nice as a spotter, sniper type thing, but that's why we got kind of at once, and it got forgotten about, was the wheel tank changes. Got overshadowed by the changes to ATGMs and rockets. You know, some some armored cars did have missiles and rockets on them. And it just kind of, honestly, if they just had that dispersion reticle, I think it would have been tolerable. Which is also why I think they're going to be able to include it in the next season update. It's just, alright, we've got to change around some HUD things, some just user interface type things. Alright, great. What do you think? Comment down below. But also, something we all need to keep in mind, and why I think this game is going to get pleasantly interesting, especially in about a year, because we're halfway through. But remember, at the end of this year, Wargaming Chicago will be no more. They will not be the lead team. There will probably be a skeleton crew that might help her out with the rest of this game. But the lead team will be now located. I don't think they haven't announced yet. I don't think will be now located in Europe. Communication will be much faster. Development of this game will be much faster, because at least now the lead team will be able to communicate with the other teams that are either A, on the same time as them, or an hour ahead of them or behind them, as opposed to being in Chicago, which, like, the UK is maybe 7 hours ahead of them. Could you imagine you're at the end of your day and then you have to sit down right as you're kind of like just an hour or two before leaving to sit down to a conference call with your lead, who's now just like they've barely been in the office? Like, yeah, that's interesting. So this, I know it's frustrating, but I'm not saying I'm right. Again, a lot of speculation, but I'm just repeating stuff that has been talked about and proposed and sort of planned. Again, we've had terrain resistance tests. We have wheeled vehicles that have been seeing multiple changes. And I just feel like this is what they're setting up for. Trying to establish a new meta for World of Tanks Modern Armor. Right now, it kind of sucks. End of this year, Christmas time will be very interesting, I think, because we're going to start seeing... That's the earliest I think we might see some of this become into fruition. Obviously, we're not going to see I don't think we'll see anything concrete until next year. Obviously, it's not going to be until, like, maybe earliest, February? Most likely March, when we might get an actual roadmap for the rest of the year, but I think that's what they're trying to do. Bring in wheeled vehicles, slow down the pacing of Cold War, and after playing Heat, I kind of realized, you know what? Having zippy MBTs is not necessarily needed to separate you from the pack. And I think that is, especially now that World of Tanks PC has Tier 11 but doesn't have T-72s, no hint of an Abrams yet. It's like, alright, we are still our own game. Just stuck with being kind of, well, not an ocean, but definitely a lake of World of Tanks. Yes. So yeah. It's frustrating to play ATGMs for the brief moment now, but I honestly think this is going to lead to possibly some very positive changes and improvements to World of Tanks Modern, which in the past 2 years, this game has slowly been improving. A lot of changes that were made in 6 months that were negative are being rectified. So I'm very excited. Well, aside from the current situation in Metal Fest, I'm very excited to see what the future holds for this game. I really do hope that the first wheeled tank line we get is maybe I think it was hinted at a long time, was the British armored cars for World War II, which I'm fine with that. More playtesting, or I don't think wargaming would be crazy, but you never know. We could have 2 wheeled tank lines, one in World War II and one in Cold War, come in at the same time. Sometimes, maybe not so much more, but these developers have been, dare I say, a bit rash with their instituting updates and changes. So, anyway, yeah. Like and subscribe. Oh! Now that I'm here, yeah. I know YouTube certainly likes it when you prefers quantity over quality, but I do have to acknowledge the fact that in the past week I have gained 10 new subscribers, which is a first. Usually my videos get maybe 2 or 3 if I'm lucky. So, hi. Thank you. I'm glad you're not some of the viewers who prefer negative commentary and game bashing to let's try to have fun and enjoy something that I don't think sucks. Far from perfect, but hey, that's online gaming. It's a constant evolution with experimentation. You never know what you're gonna get when you experiment. So, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm not quite sure though, because like I said, I was semi-rushed in making this video because I wasn't expecting this news today of the AT gym changes being reverted. I think we adapted a little too well. Yeah. Go figure. Because did anyone notice the pacing of Era 2 and Era 3 slowing down? I didn't. So sometimes bold actions are required. Something I don't think might not happen so much with the shift from the American team to a European team. But then again, there might also be more thought put into what goes into the game. Alright. I've rambled enough. Thank you. Comment down below, like I've said for the umpteenth time. But what do you think? I'm not saying I'm Tank Stradamus here, but I definitely think the next 6 months, I hope next 6 months, maybe a full year, we're going to see some very good improvements to this game. And I'll be honest, I've said it before and I'll say it again. World of Tanks Mod Armor. You bring wheeled vehicles into Cold War mode, I'll put down $100 for 25,000 gold, because that's the next thing I want. So anyway, keep your tracks in the ground. Hope the RNG's in favor. I'll catch you in the next one. Goodbye.